Hello and welcome to tonight's episode of On the Record. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. As the new year unfolds, our nation faces a disturbing reality. Within just the first month, we've witnessed a surge in violence, culminating in a staggering 18 murders. This alarming statistic not only raises the question, how do we get there, but also, what can we do to stop this tide of violence? The community's response has been a mix of fear, anger, and desperation. There's a growing clamor for harsher measures, with many calling for the return of capital punishment. But beyond these reactionary cries for justice, there are families torn apart by grief, witnessing loved ones lost to this senseless violence. In an effort to stem this tide, the government and court system have taken a stand. Recent amendments to the Bail Act, aimed at revoking bail for repeat offenders, represents a significant shift in our judicial landscape. But is this enough? Are we addressing the root causes of this crisis? Tonight, we dig deeper into these questions. We speak to someone who's lived a life many of us can't even imagine. He's a former gang member, once listed among the most wanted, who will share his perspective. We also sit down with a seasoned criminal defense attorney who will unpack her views on what contributes to the surge in crime and how our legal system is coping. Stay with us as we seek understanding and solutions. This is On the Record. Tonight we look into a pressing issue that's gripped our nation, the alarming rise in violent crime. Let's take a closer look at the events that have unfolded in the past few weeks. At the top of the year, just 8 days in, our country was already reeling from 8 murders. The president of the Bahamas Christian Council weighed in. It was at the Royal Bahamas Police Force's annual church service that Bishop Delton Fernanda tackled the topic during a fiery sermon. He urged us not to live in fear, but to stand together as a community. Gene Joseph reports.
With last year's murder count ending in the triple digits and 8 murders recorded so far this year, Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernanda says it's time for upstanding citizens to regain control of society. His comments came during the police force's church service at New Destiny Baptist Cathedral on Gladstone Road.
We've got to take our streets, our basketball court, our neighborhoods, our spaces. We've got to take them back.
Pointing out suspects on bail are being murdered, Fernanda is also calling for urgent reform in the country's judicial system, a cry that is often echoed by police force officials.
Something is terribly wrong with our justice system. The system is in need. You don't have to say amen. I'm going to preach it anyhow. The system is in need of a serious review.
While Prime Minister Philip Davis suggested a national day of prayer, Fernanda had this to say.
I've concluded that we must stand up everywhere and must get in place so that we can fight for the soul of our country. We must remember that the walls are down and it's time to have Operation Secure the City.
But it isn't just murder that's plaguing our streets. There's been a notable increase in sexual assaults and violent attacks. A particularly disturbing case involving a 13-year-old boy in Grand Bahama got our attention. On Tuesday, January 16th, we received reports that a 13-year-old boy was fighting for his life after he was stabbed for refusing to join a gang. Police said that the victim was walking in Lewis Yard when he was confronted by three men he knew. Police say the men asked him to join their gang. When he refused, he was stabbed in the abdomen. Well, these incidents are igniting a familiar debate. Should we revisit capital punishment? While the religious community passed on commenting, what about our lawmakers? What stance did they take on this critical issue? In this report, our Berthany McDermott explores both sides of the issue.
Amid a spike in homicides, lawmakers on both sides of the political divide are sharing their views on the issue. Last week, Education Minister Glenys Hanna Martin said it's unlikely we will see executions after Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness threw his support behind capital punishment. But what do our lawmakers believe?
From a personal perspective, the Word of God gives us our instructions from God for every aspect of our life. And the Bible speaks to eye for an eye.
Sometimes you have reasons for rehabilitation, but that sometimes that persons might want that route. I think it's an emotional view.
The last execution in the Bahamas was on January 6, 2000 at the Foxhill prison. We pitched the question to the official opposition as well. Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard said the party hasn't come to a decision on the matter yet.
We need to be absolutely sure that from the point of prosecution all the way through from the point of arrest all the way through the prosecution, that we have the right person for the right crime. The last thing we need is to put to death somebody that is innocent. But in clear-cut cases, I believe the majority of Bahamians support capital punishment.
And we need to start hanging persons that have been convicted, completed their appeal process of murder again. I'm not into this whole deal about Privy Council saying it needs to be the worst of the worst. That's their opinion.
The hot-button issue is again making news headlines amid a surge in homicides in the capital. Religious pastors remain split on the issue. We asked the lawmakers if they believe capital punishment will be a deterrent to criminal activity.
It will be a deterrent to some individuals. A lot of times murder is a crime of passion, but at the same time, an individual has lost their life.
In this day and time, I don't know exactly if it's going to act as a deterrent. I cannot positively say it, because what you're seeing on the road is people who are determined to carry out what they want to carry out.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
We heard from members of Parliament and other government officials, but as our Joshua Williams took this question to the streets to understand the community's stance on capital punishment, the response was varied. Here's what our people had to say.
Calls for capital punishment getting louder as violence has pushed the country's murder count to 14 for the year, and residents are sounding off on the idea.
I really feel that they really need to capitalize that punishment. It really need to be enhanced. It's a lot. It's a lot going on.
I'm a Christian, and the good book say, if you live by it, you die by it. You know, I would hate to see one of my family members or friends get swing, right? But I feel if you kill, you should be killed.
If you kill somebody, we say we're a Christian nation, right? It's in the Bible. If the Bible supported and we're a Christian nation, why not?
According to an Our News social media poll on Facebook, the majority of residents prefer lethal injection as a method of capital punishment, with nearly 1,000 votes. This is what others had to say.
Any which way. Anyone. It doesn't make a difference to me once you kill.
Hanging should not be brought back. The point is, we need to fix our problem. We have a problem in this nation.
You should punish them differently. As you know, like different punishment, but not capital, like hanging again. I don't think you should bring that back.
God don't speak directly, he speaks to the court. Let's go with the court. I say, let it swing. You know, I went to school where we had to wear a necktie and that don't play. You understand me? So when you do wrong, you get the necktie. I say the necktie.
These residents say they want to ensure only the guilty are executed.
Once we cross all our T's and dot all of our I's, I am for it. We just have to make sure that no innocent people are killed for the guilty.
Now, various government officials, along with residents, have given their opinion on capital punishment. The last time someone was executed in the Bahamas was all the way back in 2000. As to when it will happen again, we'll have to wait and see. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
This brings us to January 24th. With a double-digit murder count less than a month into the year, the government trying to ease public fears and concerns by tackling one of the biggest problems, repeat offenders on bail. The Prime Minister tabled an amendment to the Bail Act in Parliament accompanied by a clear and strong message to criminals. Once again, here's Berthany McDermott.
The amendment will automatically revoke bail for anyone committing a serious offense who is already on bail. Prime Minister Philip Davis bringing the amendment to Parliament in the midst of a rising crime wave, while careful to acknowledge bail as a constitutional right that ought not be abused.
Our amendment will ensure that bail is automatically revoked for those accused persons who commit offenses while on bail. This includes those found to be in violation of the terms of their bail, which is an offense under the amendment.
These amendments come following Police Commissioner Clayton Fernander's call for a review of the law, as case after case shows murder victims are on bail or suspects are arrested for new crimes while on bail. It's the Prime Minister's hope this now sends a stern message.
Our legal system will no longer tolerate those who flout its rules and endanger our communities.
While 17 murders already for the year, the government is now forced to provide answers. One remedy is expanding school policing. This means more police officers in schools as a way to build relationships.
This initiative aims not only to ensure safety, but also to engage in early prevention, detection, and intervention of criminal activities among our young people. Our clear, whole, and build strategy is a robust approach to dismantling gang presence in our neighborhoods.
Also on the crime agenda is curbing drug trafficking.
We are also strengthening regional cooperation in our fight against drug trafficking and illegal arms trade. By working closely with our neighboring countries, we aim to tackle these cross-border issues more effectively.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
But what does this amendment mean for us? Can it help to curb the rising tide of crime? Later in tonight's episode, we'll speak to an expert who can guide us through the implications of this amendment. We'll also have an exclusive and compelling segment when you join us after the break. We sit down with a reformed gang member who once topped the most wanted list. This is a rare opportunity to hear firsthand about life inside a gang, what drives individuals to such a path, and importantly, what led to his transformation. You won't want to miss this insightful conversation. Tonight, we have the unique opportunity to hear from someone who has lived it, a reformed gang member. He's here to give us an inside look at gang life, the factors that often lead individuals down this dangerous path, and the current realities of the streets. We talk about his personal journey, how he managed to break free from the gang lifestyle, a feat that's both rare and incredibly challenging. For his safety and privacy, he has chosen to remain anonymous, but we are deeply grateful for the chance to hear his story. Here's the interview.
All right, so first of all, thank you for agreeing to do the interview with us. As I told you, we'll make sure to conceal your identity. I want to start by you telling us, how is it that you got involved in gang life and that gang violence, we call it? How did you get involved?
Well, I got involved in gang life by lack of less. One parent in the house, sometimes another one that's got to take care of the whole house, so you got to go there and make ends for you and your family, you know what I mean? And then you go to a lot of places, no one helping you, so push you back to the streets where you have to go to sell drugs, meet niggas, maybe take hits to kill people, you know what I mean? And all of this is, all that's involved, that's to try help your mother, your other sisters. Imagine a mother, a single parent with 7 children. No father for no one around, that's the children there. You know what I mean? Light off, no grocery in the house. You know what I mean? And then in the streets, you go there. First they show you will make it feel like love, but when you realize you're sinking yourself deeper into the streets, because when you're into the streets for so long, they have you running around doing this, doing that. You know what I mean? Selling this, selling that. And I think, guess what, like when they finish with you, they find someone else, you know what I mean, with a street life like that, you see what I'm saying? And that's the street life show a lot of people on the street show a lot of young people a lot of love.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's what they ain't getting from home. You see what I'm saying? So I had my years into the street life, and then I see a lot of friends of mine that don't watch Lawsuit on Corn.
We'll talk a little bit more later on about why you left, but recently we've seen a lot of murders, a lot of young men killed, some of them not even 18 years old. You look at that, you hear the stories, you see what's going on. What do you think is the reason that we've seen so many murders recently?
Well, the reason you're seeing a lot of murders happening is that a lot of children grow up in their own world or daddy. They enter the streets. The street people show love, pay bills for their family. So it's more like they owe the street a favor. So anytime a senior man in the street asks them to do something, they have to do it. You see what I'm saying?
So what's driving the senior man? You said the senior man tell you got to do something. Do we really have a war going on between these senior men?
Yeah, you have a war going on. There's a war going on from way back, and the war ain't never stopped. The war still going on, even so sometimes it slow down, and then sometimes it kick right back up. Like for instance, majority of the war come from jail. Majority of the wars come from jail.
The message coming from jail?
Yeah, majority of the wars come from jail. Let's go. The average person who get killed, you do the mathematics and you look at the survey and thing. It's either a hit coming out from jail, with someone in jail, where they offend someone in jail and they send someone on the streets to deal with them. Or this person been to jail or he just come out of jail. Why with people from in jail, but the people from in jail still have a connect on the road.
Let me ask you, I hear fellas say, man, I'll take 2 years for that meaning, I'll do my crime, sit in jail, get bail and come out.
Yeah, that means it's easy because when you're in jail, you go to jail for murder. It goes back to show that the system is backloggers in cases. You violate his rights. He do 3-4 years on raising trial. Automatically you have to give him bail because his rights is done being provoking. You see what I'm saying? Now he come back out. Now everybody who doing wrong from in jail, who send him to jail, he coming back out on the road for them. You know what I mean? And a lot of the young fellas who doing the killing, they don't really get the understanding. This war ain't even about them. They just get themselves involved in something what ain't concerning them, but when they realize what's going on, it's be too late.
You can't get out.
You can't get out because you done killed so much. And then you get 13-year-old, 12-year-old, these young boys is be in the club. How could a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old in the club in the night?
So where the parents, if I got a 13 or 15-year-old, they got to be home.
Okay, you got some parents waking, you got some parents can't control them. Some parents have no help. So if they have no help, what could they do?
How much pressure is there for you to get involved? You grow up in the area, you go to school with these fellas, like you say, the senior man in the area, senior man saying, is there a lot of pressure for you to get involved, and was that the case with you?
Yeah, with them, the pressure is that, like I keep telling you, it's a lack of love in home, it's a lack of interest. Parents working, and they see certain people in the streets, they moving around all day with guns, they selling drugs, they see this fast money, good living. Their parents ain't eating. So sometimes they go and hang with the person. Next thing you know, they gang. All of them is a part of the gang. They want that fast life. Yeah, they want that fast life, they want that money, and they want to look good. They want to say, oh, I driving or something. I wear a big chain. You know what I mean? I get this money. I riding with the old killers. If I ride with the old killers, people can respect me. Because fishing, they saying, I's a killer too.
Because you with them.
Because I with them, it's correct.
Where the guns coming from?
Majority of the time the guns come from overseas, boats. They ship them in. It still falls back down on, we don't make guns, so the guns don't make you. See what I'm saying? Everything gets shipped in.
How easy is it for me to get a gun if I wanted one?
It's easy to get a gun. You go in your community, You know who the people is and you know who's selling them. You know what I mean? You get your money, you get your gun.
What an average piece cost me?
Average piece cost 11.
1100?
Yeah.
Do the police know? You say people know who's selling the guns, they know how they coming in. How much do the police know?
Police know everything. Trust me, they know. See, the thing go deeper than what you think. See what I'm saying? Because if you really do the search, you're surprised to know who's selling it.
Why?
You'd be surprised to know who's
Why
selling
you
it.
be surprised?
You don't mind everybody in coat suit or shop or whatever. Don't mind that. You know?
There's some big wigs involved.
Yeah, some big boys involved. Big boys. They face never on the front line. Never, ever.
But they collecting the money.
They used to settle bringing in and collecting the money.
And you say boats, cruise ships, yachts,
Boats, everything. You see, sometimes they come from the island. Sometimes they drop them to the island and they come here.
Wow. What made you decide to get out of this life?
What made me decide to get out of life, I done see so much of my friends gone. You know what I mean? I get children. You know what I mean? And then when I do my little stretch, I make a vow to God that I'll come out and serve him once he protect me and take care of me and my family. And so far from what I see, that's what God has been doing. And I make my vow to him, so I do my best to serve him. See, what you gotta realize is, right? A lot of time, the people say they can give this to the government or this to help the people. Majority of the people that's helping the people is the church. That's what get me out of it.
So it really is the church that's helping?
It is the church. You see what they say? Just by being around, I see a lot of things. Especially, you see, you got St. Agnes on Blue Road. I know if you know what Father Cartwright.
I go to that church.
Okay, that's who instilled me to do good and just keep pressing on forward and forward. You see what they say? You got them, you got Salem Baptist, you Taylor Street. You see what they say? You got a couple well other church with us do good. You see what they say?
What would it take to get more young men, more fellas like you to say, no, I don't want to do this no more. Let me go in another direction.
What it take them to get is, you gotta just go to them and you gotta show them like real love and show them that you ain't a fake. You know what I mean? You see them this month and then they don't see you no more for a year, 2 years or whatever. You come see them again when you need something from them. No. That ain't how the church run. Church come to your house, check on your school. They do everything. You see what they say? Problems you in, get you out and all sometimes. You know what I mean? And then from you see these things, you don't gonna want to go back to that lifestyle because majority, well, like I tell you, majority of people, in lifestyle, they only want to live good, have everything that they need, that they can help their sisters, their brothers, their mommy. You know, there's some are getting up in the morning, they can't even feed their children. The children got to go to school and wait till the mom come home and see that she can hustle in order to feed them. I didn't even talk about eating no breakfast. They have to go straight to school and wait, come home and see what they mom hustle or whatever in order to feed them. You know what I mean?
So you live in day to day?
That's how they have to live. They have no other choice. Okay, they go to, if you go to certain places, a lot of people say go to social service, but the run around, they'll carry you through. It don't make no sense. They will dig deep into your life, Richard. They put you there to help, protect, and serve the country. But you going deep into a person's life, you could go deep into a person's life after you and show them to get them to trust you. But you can't just want to go deep into his life and he don't trust you.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned to our producer that there are many out there who don't feel like this country is for them. Like this country don't belong to them.
Yes, many out there still feel the country don't belong to them because the people in the heads of the government who you trust, what they trust and foreigners. You see what I saying? And they ain't one set of foreigners. The country is so flooded with so much different foreigners till they ain't funny, and now they sit back and make remarks of your Bahamians. How could it be? How could you help someone else and your own need help?
So you feel like we're neglecting our own people?
Right away. You can't help no one else. Okay. How long we been helping foreigners? From your daddy time, my daddy time, from so long. Okay, y'all say y'all bringing certain people in the country when they had this happen in their country, that happened in their country. But now they here, there's nothing to be said. How many people in this country without status? Working. And they say Bahamians don't want way, Bahamians one way. Why would y'all give the Bahamians a job if y'all can let this one working? He working for citizenship, he working for paper. He ain't working for no money. He waiting for you to get any papers to be straight. So, who you think you gonna decide?
Do you feel that help comes to you, or is it something you have to always ask for? Do you feel like, as a Bahamian, you get the help when you need it, or you gotta go out there and hustle and beg? Or?
As a Bahamian, help don't come to no Bahamian. They just have to go there and make it happen and hustle. But as a foreigner, there's some of them that sit back and it comes to them. Whereby you been working around so much of them. If this one leave a job, a next foreigner take that. It should not be. They bring in their people when they leave. See, I say, the average of them that's come here to get what they have to get, and some don't stay, and some stay. You know what I mean? The first set, the set who was here before, the set who just come, they more sociable, but the set who just come, they more like they have a grudge against Bahamians. For what reason we do not know, that's our country. We ain't asking, we helping them.
You have a right to be here.
We ain't just come here, we born here. We helping them, but yet still, it's still a problem.
I want to go back to you for a bit. At what point did you say, you know what, I am done with this life? What happened for you to change?
Well, what point when I say I'm done with the life, children born, see a lot of best friends and friends get killed, and get killed by their own. You know what I mean? What made me change is to say, all the years of my life I've been trying badness and doing this and doing that, and never pay off. The only thing that pay off is lock up 7 days a week, wanted for this, wanted for that. And I seek that once or twice I seek God and things is working my way. You know what I mean? Like I tell you, the church have some very nice people in the church. See what I say? Especially St. Agnes Church, they have a very lot of good people in the church. You see what I say? And as people see you grow and they see you really change, people help you along the way. You see what I say? That you can manage, you can take care of your children. You see what I say? You don't got to be into the streets. You know what I mean?
When you look back at your life, when you're involved in gangs and violence, you have any regrets for the things that you did?
Yes, I have a lot of regrets for the things I did, because majority of times I did things under poor pressure. No needs, I had no way, I had no one to depend on. You know what I mean? I had a family I had to help. Like I say, you have parents with 9 or 10 children and there's only a mother one. How long was she?
Missing daddies.
No, yeah, missing daddies, no daddy on the whole. You know what I mean?
You think a lot of missing fathers?
You have a lot of houses with no parents, no daddies, that's mothers. Then, if you look at the situation is, the mother gotta do for it, then she ain't gonna give her daughter time to grow up, because the daughter gotta go there and provide, have the mother provide for the children. That's why a lot of young girls starting to get killed now too. Because instead of they be dealing with their educations and trying to make some of themselves, they have to help their parents provide. That means you're meeting killers, you're meeting gangsters, you're prostituting yourself. That's to help turn on rent, help turn on light, put grocery in the house. They ain't getting the child time to grow. When she's supposed to be a child, she got to be a parent.
Same thing with the boys?
The same thing with the boys. When they're supposed to be kids, they got to be big grown adults.
If you could share with us, what's the worst thing that you've done that you regret?
Me, it's a lot of waste things I done I regret, you know what I mean? You know? Certain things off the book you can't say.
But you served time in jail.
No. I never served time.
You never served time?
Yeah, but
But you were arrested before?
Yeah, but I did maiden drive time. 5 years on maiden drive.
So I see you
Now it's
out.
almost wanted.
You working? You was on a most wanted too?
Yeah.
You were out, you were working, you providing. How was it? How difficult was it to start over, to get a job, to put all that behind you? People know you got a record or you've gotten problems, you've been in problems.
How hard was it for you to start over?
Yeah, it was very hard because at one point in time I almost went back because nothing was working, like I told you, until I get myself situated in certain churches. You know what I mean? They showed me a way and they make a way. You see what I'm saying? Because me going out there myself personally looking for it, it ain't gonna happen. I ain't got it.
You need help.
That's what it is, you need help. You see what I'm saying? You personally going out there go look for it yourself, you ain't gonna get it. You know what I mean? Everybody will tell you, pay them back. Or we will call, and they never call. You see what I'm saying?
All right.
But-
Finally, what do you think is gonna take for us to turn this around? I mean, you could be 18 murders for the year.
18 murders for a month. It's only January and it's done 18. It's only 1 month. The year ain't even gone yet. And I mean,
What's going to take for us to start to turn this around?
to turn this around, you have to go like do like have more love and like show people that you really care about them and go to people's houses, check on them. You know what I mean?
Get in the homes.
Get into the homes, into the schools. And in the evening, when certain children come home, you put them in a different program with helping them and they sharing and they seeing love you and they seeing performance.
How important is education?
Education is 100%. 100%. You know what I mean? Majority of like schools, majority of our schools full up with foreigners. Okay, see they teach, like they teach Spanish and French. Spanish and French is not for them to teach. I think it's for them to teach. It's more like Creole because the country full of that. How could you be around people and they talk in a language and they do not understand?
Good point.
But yet tell you teaching us French and things, and we don't have them people here like that. We got Japanese, we got Chinese here. All them speak language we do not know how to speak.
Final question. You say you have kids.
Yeah.
What are you doing differently to ensure that your children don't follow the path that you follow?
Well, what I'm doing differently is my best option is keep them in church, keep them occupied, let them serve God, and I always try to be the father to be there for them so they don't have to go open into the street to look for no love. It's either love us at home, or love us at church serving God. You see what I say? Get your education and try to make something more of your life. You see what I say? As a father, I done been there and I sit my children down and tell them all of this. You know, friends just be the normal one to be the main one to kill you. Majority of my friends I know has been killed by friends. You see what I say? Which it is, the system, you got some people out 4 and 5 murders, 3 and 4 murders. The system is really backlogged. You see what I say? You could charge a person for murder, that ain't means he ain't coming out.
Good point.
You could send him to jail. That don't mean nothing. But he could get on the phone and call from jail and take your life from jail. If you, all the people have cellular phone, they have jail and thing. If you so care about the people that say, you only think you're supposed to put a top in the phone to listen to the business? It's either you want to make a call, if you're making a call for cents, you wouldn't mind. So if you don't want me listening to your call, why you don't want me listening to it?
All right, my brother. Thank you very much.
We want to thank him for his insight. And when we come back, What do these revelations mean within the framework of our legal system? What does this amendment mean? We delve deeper into this. We bring in our legal contributor. Stay with us. After hearing the raw and real experiences of a reformed gang member, it's clear that the issue of crime in our society is multifaceted. But to truly grasp a fuller picture, we need to understand how these stories intersect with our judicial system. We're privileged to have with us Tonique Lewis, a distinguished criminal defense attorney. Welcome to On the Record.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And thank you for agreeing to do this. I know many in the legal fraternity shy away from these discussions because they don't want to get involved at this level and talk, but it's important for us to dissect this issue at all levels. So first of all, what exactly do you do as a criminal defense attorney?
So as a criminal defense attorney, Jerome, most criminal matters, it starts from the station visit.
Right.
So I would do station visits for suspects who are in custody for criminal offenses. If it is that they are charged, then we start at the magistrate's court. So I make appearances before the magistrate's court, so I would handle matters, minor matters, causing harm, disorderly behavior, and then even matters such as possession of firearm, possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply, and the more serious matters such as murder, armed robbery, rape, trafficking in persons. So it would be just representing defendants once they are charged or at least for any criminal offense.
So just recently, in response to the rising crime, the government brought an amendment to the Bail Act to Parliament. What exactly does this amendment mean?
So, truthfully, this is the only thing what I would say, as well as having spoken to some of my colleagues, and they do agree, all it did was, because this was always the policy. So as it relates to these proposed amendments, where they say if you breach a bail condition, your recognizance shall be void. But prior to this, when it is the bail was granted, every defendant, they signed that bail bond. And on that bail bond, that is what they agreed to. So these things, it's nothing new, if I be honest. So for the defendant, this is what we've always been doing. Now it's just statute. As well as I have noticed in the proposed amendment, it was also a section that speaks to any breach, your bail shall be revoked, or as well as you can be charged with the criminal offense, the breach of bail, which we were always doing. Now, I did note in the objects and reasons of it, it had indicated that persons who are convicted, it was to take away that discretion from the magistrate for them to be able to impose a fine. Now, we still have our penal code, section 123, which says that a magistrate on a conviction, as long as the penalty does not give a minimum custodial, they can substitute it for a fine. So the magistrate would still have that discretion.
So back up a bit to something you said. This amendment now puts into law that bail can be revoked, but there was always the ability to revoke bail.
There was. So if it is that you had breached a bail condition, prosecutors, they could have made an application to the Supreme Court to have your bail revoked. They always had that. So this is a policy we always had. They just now, they're making it statute.
Are you able to determine why it was never done, why bail was never revoked when you always had the ability to do it?
Well, that's just it. It does happen. Sometimes they do make the application to have bail revoked. But now what's happening is, especially when we look at the outcry of the public. So, for example, let's say you have a person who's on bail. So I may have had clients, the bail breach may have been one of, let's say, they missed curfew. Because even with the proposed amendments, the same conditions that they speak to were conditions that judges were always giving defendants.
In many of the things I thought, wait a minute, I've heard this before. I thought this was in existence. And a lot of things I was like, well, this doesn't seem new to me, but I'm not the legal scholar. Go ahead.
Yeah. So now it's just, okay, you have a defendant who he's on bail, and it is, let's say he breaches curfew. So the judge may have imposed a curfew of 8 a.m. or no, let's say 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? So before 6 a.m., you should be inside your residence. After 6 p.m., you're back in your residence. So that's your curfew. Mm-hmm. So usually, now what I have seen, even before the proposed amendments, they usually bring persons or they charge them when they may have had, like, let's say, 4 breaches of the curfew. I've never seen it just for one breach. No. So if they have a couple breaches, then they were charged, brought before the court. Now, the magistrate, because it's now a criminal charge, which on one of our previous bail amendments, they had already made it a criminal charge. So they're brought before the magistrate. The magistrate, sometimes they may fine them, or, on your first time, you may give them a fine, as well as depending on how far off from your curfew or, the extent of the breach.
So really up to the discretion.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what it always was. So now with this act, it says, okay, once you're convicted of a breach, the prosecution, they shall take you before the Supreme Court for the revocation. So not on every occasion prior to these proposed amendments, they may have taken you, but sometimes they did. So now with these proposed amendments, it's saying, look, you shall take them within 21 days. So no option, just take them there.
Okay. So thank you for explaining that to us so we begin to understand now how it worked. Now, constitutionally, can any of this be challenged?
So I've heard the concerns as it relates to constitutionally. Now, I think where people bring in the Constitution is because it says that in these proposed amendments, where it speaks to the year of recognizance, it shall be void, right? And again, that is your agreement. So, I always tell my clients, listen, bail is granted. The judge always tell you any breach of the conditions, you can be brought back to have it revoked. Albeit that the statute says it shall be void, it is my position that it is still at the judge's discretion whether or not on the breach, is it egregious enough to say, let us revoke this bail? Because depending on, let's say, for example, if it is that you have a curfew condition, your curfew is at 6 p.m., you get in at 6:05. For whatever reason, because technically that's a breach, your curfew is at 6. Mm-hmm. So will judges...
held up at the stoplight.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So will judges look at this as a strict liability offense where, no, we don't care. We won't hear what you have to say because the act says it shall. But my view is, as well as some of my other colleagues, that the judge, they have that discretion that cannot be taken away from them. And even though it says it shall be void, we still have to look at, obviously, well, let's not say obviously, but hopefully nobody would bring you before the court at, oh, your first time, oh no, they supposed to sign in at 6 p.m. They signed in 6:02. Take them before the court.
Yeah.
So people, you would still, it's still...
Even officers of the court and have that discretion.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let me ask this now. Do you see these amendments as really assisting in the reduction of crime? Do you think this is something that people are going to stop and think about now? Or do you think it's people just going to go on business as usual?
See, but again, we always had these. So I don't really see, yeah, because now we just made it law. This was always the policy. Now, I know persons also, you also look at, oh, well, because the cry too was persons who are on bail, they're committing offenses, and now the act speaks to if it is you commit offense, your bail would be revoked. But when we make the bail application, I would go as far as saying 95% of the time in the affidavit that the person who is applying for bail, he says, that's one of the paragraphs in his application. I will not commit an offense while on bail, right? Because again, you can't just blanket say, oh, if we give you bail, you commit an offense without more. So usually we include that. So, and that is something that the judge considers when they grant the bail. That, okay, look, there's nothing to suggest that this person would commit an offense. He is saying that, he or she is saying that they would not commit an offense while on bail. Now, even though the act, because it speaks to, a person who is on bail, if it is because it says not to commit any offense while on bail. Now, the commission of the offense, we can't confuse it and say just because they're charged. And sometimes that's what happened. When you listen to the public, oh, the person he's on bail for murder and now he's on bail for something else. Oh, we just letting the criminals back on the road. But until he has a conviction, he is innocent,
It's
just
still
like
the
me and you.
presumption of innocence.
The presumption, exactly.
So I guess my question, and I ask this as a member of the public, if this individual is not on bail for a serious crime and a criminal matter and is now back before the court for another matter, that says to me a pattern of behavior.
See, now,
I done from Joe Public's perspective. You're out on bail, but now you're back for another matter.
but here's the thing. You're out on bail because we can't in one breath say, oh, the presumption of innocence. But then when we say, oh, he's back again, you see he's a criminal. So what happened to his presumption? No, mistakes happen. That's just it. Because we don't look at we being the public, the common man on the road, or anybody who is not in the matter or knows the investigation of the matter, has read the file. They know what the statement's saying, right? We don't know what's the strength of that evidence to say that this person, he was charged and, oh, all they have is, and even if they do, no trial has happened.
So, which brings me now to my next question. East Grand Bahama Kwesi Thompson made a comment recently that bringing people to trial in a more timely manner will assist in dealing with the backlog and being able to dispose of these cases faster. Is that an issue? Because I know that a lot of times people are able to apply for bail because they have been on remand, waiting for a matter to be disposed of, and it's not. Is that backlog a serious issue that continues to impact even this question of bail?
It's definitely an issue. But we also have to consider, listen, our judges, they're still human. So they still have to write decisions. They still have to write something up for their trials. They still have to hear bail applications. They still have to have trials. So it's only so many hours in a day. But I say that to say with the backlog, if it is maybe, because especially with this proposed amendment, right? Maybe what we can do is, or consider, let's just bring on a judge to deal with the bail. So that's one less thing the judge who have trials has to deal with. That's one thing off of their calendar, right? As well as when we look at, because with the backlog, keep in mind, we lost, I would say, about a year and a half when we had COVID.
Almost two.
Oh,
You're right.
yeah. So that
Still
helped
catching
with
up. Yeah.
Exactly. So what we can look at too is, listen, instead of waiting, and having spoken to some prosecutors as well, I appreciate that they may be a bit short-staffed. So again, it's only so much they can do. You can only be one place at a time. But maybe if there's a section to say, instead of waiting until about that 2 weeks before the trial begins, maybe months in advance, we can see, look, is this a matter that we will actually be proceeding the trial? So let's say we're now in February. There's a matter coming up in August, September. Let's look at that now. Let's start with our preparation. Mind you, things can still change then.
Sure.
But at least if we know from now, look, this is a matter that we're not going to be proceeding with. We may end up nulling it or discontinuing it. we could take that off of our books. We could take that out of the court's calendar. That frees them up for a week. Something else can be put in there.
Very practical. Very,
Yes.
very, very practical. So, as a part of this discussion on crime and the outcries for crime, people have brought to the fore again this issue of capital punishment and whether that is the answer. Is capital punishment the answer, or do we need to focus more on our correctional facilities and systems and redirect the energy to rehabilitation?
My view, capital punishment is not the answer. I would say well, that would take us into
That's a whole other discussion. That's a whole other show. No, you're right.
Even
okay, so you're right. Yeah, you're right.
So
and I take that because that's a whole other 2 hours. Yeah. But let's talk about then. And a lot of lawyers and legal scholars have said that they've come out and said capital punishment is not the answer. No. So we can set that aside for a moment. Let's talk, though, about our correctional facilities and systems and whether we redirect our energy to rehabilitation. Is that the answer?
It's an alternative, and it would be a good one. And let me take you through it. When it is you're charged with a matter, you're on remand, or even when you're sentenced, when you go into the prison, and this is what I've heard from several of my clients. So what they would say is, because sometimes I find, even in the bail applications, they say, oh, this person is in a gang, right? So my question is, you tell them you're in a gang, they're like, I'm not in a gang. When I go to the prison, they ask me, what area you live? I tell them Fox Hill, I say I live Pinewood. They just put me in the section where all the persons who are in that area or who live in that area, because...
So wait, you in jail by constituency?
Well, because it's their reasoning is we don't want to mix two crews to have any violence, right? So they try to keep you in the area where you're from.
This is different.
So now, here it is. Different. If I wasn't in a gang and you now put me in a cell with all the persons who are, because, we're all from the same area. Sure. We in the cell every day.
We can become boys.
Exactly. And then, unfortunately, we do have the overcrowding of our prison. Now, maybe what we can do is let's either expand it so it's maybe fewer persons in a cell. This may be a bit, I don't even want to say unrealistic, but in the moment, it's not possible since we don't have the space. But let's say, for example, you're from Pinewood, I'm from Fox Hill, right? And if the two of us are in a cell, because it may be, if there's an area beef, but you and I don't know each other.
We don't have that, yeah.
Exactly.
We can live in harmony.
And then when we come out, there's no issue. Yeah. But if it is, I'm in a cell with all these people who now you telling your story as to what may have happened or what may not have happened, or we're just forming our crew. Because now you're my buddy. We're here every day.
In a previous interview, we have a Reform Gang member who told me a lot of the issues that are on the outside originate from within that prison, that the word comes out and all kinds of things. And you just talked about it. We in the cell together, all of a sudden, I roll into the Pinewood boys.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. And I guess finally, how, looking at it from the criminal defense perspective, obviously you make a living defending people who are accused. But as a Bahamian citizen, what do you see as the answer?
As it relates to our crime issue?
To crime, yes.
So what I would first say, several things. Our system, instead of always saying that, oh, this is wrong, we need to fix this, everybody should give an idea. If we are saying that, look, all these offenses are being committed with guns. Now, I believe they still have the amnesty program, but I don't really hear about it as often, as well as we can maybe impose something where, when you go to prison, you get that reduction in your time. So a calendar year is really 8 months for if you remain of good behavior while you're there. Maybe we could also throw in, because if it is, we're saying, hey, guns is an issue. We can possibly even say, you bring us 3 firearms or however you get for this inmate, we'll take off another 2 months. So let's try find ways to say, get the guns off the street. Or even if it's, you bring us in a gun, a not working gun, maybe we'll give you $100. If it's a working firearm, $500. If it's a high-powered, you get, so like let's find ways to give an incentive for people to bring these guns in. Let's get it off of the road.
All right. Those are really practical suggestions, and you're right. I think what we need to do is bring together more stakeholders who can begin to bring ideas to the table that will spur more discussion and more ideas. Everybody's not going to agree, but at least if we start to talk as a people, as opposed to just putting it at the government's feet to fix, which is what we normally do, maybe we can start to move in another direction.
And even with our court system, I would say, because if we need to get matters to trial faster, if it is, let's look at, because we have plea agreements, right? And when I talk to my clients, if it's somebody who, where it is, listen, they say, okay, Ms. Lewis, I am interested in changing my plea or in pleading guilty. What would I be looking at?
Right.
If the penalty is one where it's not far off than what they would get if they take it to trial, they're not going to take it. Exactly.
What's the point? Let me take my chances.
That's just what it is. Let me take my chances.
You're right.
So maybe sometimes let's look at it as, okay, we don't know what will happen if it's taken to trial, as well as if the trial is far down the line. Let's propose something that's a little more realistic and where we consider, look, we're saving time, we're saving resources, as well as you're still getting a conviction.
And not just that, that may be the one brush and the person says, you know what, after this I'm done.
Yes.
And I got off easy this time. Attorney Tony Lewis, thank you very much for coming on. You've been a wealth of knowledge. I just want to say that I hope I never need your services for anything, but certainly you are a wealth of knowledge, and we'd love to have you back on at another time to explore matters like this. So thank you very much.
Not a problem, Jerome.
All right. So we hope that you've enjoyed our show tonight. It's clear that tackling the surge in crime requires a joint effort. The government, the courts, the police force, and crucially, us as citizens. Each of us play a pivotal role. The government, the judicial system can enact and enforce laws, but without the cooperation and engagement of the community, these measures can only go so far. As members of this community, it is incumbent upon us to do our part. This means staying informed, being vigilant, supporting rehabilitation and community programs, and fostering an environment where safety and respect are paramount. We must work together to build a society where crime is not the default response to hardship and conflict. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to our guests for sharing their insights and experiences. Their contributions have added invaluable depth to our understanding of these complex issues. This was On the Record. We'll see you next time.